I started working at the gas station off Route 19 about a year ago. It's a small place, the kind of stop you only see when you're running low on gas in the middle of nowhere. The nearest town is about 10 miles away, and at night, the road stays quiet except for the occasional truck driver or lost traveler. I wasn't looking for anything long-term. I just needed something steady after getting laid off from my warehouse job. The owner, Mr. Lyle, was an older guy who lived in the apartment above the store. He handled the day shifts, and I took over from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. The work was simple. Ring up customers, restock shelves, check the pumps, and make sure the place didn't get robbed. Most nights were slow. Sometimes it'd go an entire hour without a single car pulling in. There's a little back room behind the counter where the security screens are. 6 of them in total, 4 outside and 2 inside. Mr. Lyle told me to keep an eye on the one facing the parking lot because stray dogs and drunks wander around out there sometimes. I thought he was just being cautious. My routine became pretty predictable. I'd make coffee, play something quiet on the radio, and scroll through my phone when it got boring. Around 2 or 3 a.m., things would slow down to nothing but the hum of the freezer and the buzz of the fluorescent lights. That sound gets in your head after a while. It's like being underwater. One night, a storm rolled in. Heavy rain, strong wind, the kind that made the roof creak. The power flickered a few times, and I remember thinking how much I didn't want to be stuck there if it went out. But the lights stayed on, and I just went about my routine like normal. I cleaned the coffee area, checked the shelves, and looked out the window every few minutes. That's when I first noticed something strange. It was small, barely worth mentioning at the time, but it stuck with me later. A car had pulled in, but no one ever came inside. The car had stopped right beside pump 3. It was an old beat-up sedan, the kind that looked like it hadn't been washed in years. The headlights stayed on, cutting through the rain, but no one stepped out. I waited a minute, then 2, thinking maybe they were just trying to stay dry. Still, no movement. I leaned forward, squinting through the glass, but all I could see was the shape of someone sitting behind the wheel. No features, no clear outline, just a figure. I figured maybe they were asleep or too tired to move. So I grabbed my flashlight and went outside. The rain hit me hard. I jogged toward the car, keeping the light steady. When I reached the driver's side, I saw the window was covered in condensation, and the inside was dark. I tapped on the glass and called out, "Hey, you okay in there?" No answer. I circled around to the passenger side. Same thing. Couldn't see in, couldn't hear a thing. I crouched down to check the plates. But before I could focus, the engine sputtered to life. The car rolled backwards, slow at first, then sped off down the empty road. No headlights, no taillights, just gone. When I got back inside, I was soaked and annoyed. I checked the security footage out of habit, and that's when I realized something that didn't make sense. On the screen, the car wasn't there. Every other detail was there. The rain, the wet pavement, the glare of my flashlight, but no car. Just me standing in an empty parking lot, waving my light at nothing. I thought maybe the feed glitched, so I rewound it twice. Same thing. No car ever pulled in. I even checked the outside cameras from earlier in the night. Nothing. The more I stared at the screen, the more unsettled I felt. I decided to distract myself, so I stocked the cooler and swept near the counter. But around 3:40 I heard something outside. It sounded like tires sliding over wet gravel. I looked up at the window. The same car was back, parked in the exact same spot, and this time the driver's door was open. I froze at the counter. Rain was still coming down hard, but the sound of it seemed distant now. The open car door swung slowly, creaking with each gust of wind. I looked at the cameras again, and once more the car didn't show up on the feed. Just the wet pavement and the faint glow from the pumps. I grabbed the flashlight, stepped outside, and called out again. Nothing. I walked closer, my shoes splashing in the puddles, until I was right beside the car. The door was still open, but the inside was empty. No keys, no smell of gas, no sign anyone had ever been there. I looked up at the store window. Someone was standing inside behind the counter watching me. I quit the next morning. Mr. Lyle asked why, but I couldn't bring myself to explain, because I never saw my own reflection blink. I used to live with my cousin in a small apartment on the edge of town. It was quiet there, far from the main road, surrounded by old trees and half-empty buildings. I worked nights at a local gas station. My cousin Daniel worked at a hardware store. We barely saw each other except in the mornings when I came home, and he was leaving for work. The place was old but cheap. The landlord never fixed anything, Pipes rattled and the heater barely worked. Most nights, I'd come home, grab a cold beer, and sit by the window. You could see the forest from there, a thick line of black trees behind the old parking lot. It was peaceful at first, quiet in a way I liked. No loud cars, no neighbors yelling, no traffic. But after winter started, the nights got longer, and sometimes I'd hear something outside. Not animals, not wind, something else. The first time it happened, I was half asleep. Around 3 a.m, I heard heavy steps in the parking lot. Slow, steady, like someone dragging their feet through the gravel. I got up, looked outside, but the lot was empty. The light over the dumpster flickered a few times and went out. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe the wind, maybe an animal. But the next night, I heard it again. Same time, same dragging steps. And this time, Daniel heard it too. He came out of his room half awake, holding a baseball bat. "You heard that?" he whispered. We stood by the window for a long time. Nothing moved. The light stayed on this time. The sound stopped. We both laughed it off, but neither of us slept that night. The sounds kept coming, always after 2 a.m, always the same pattern, slow, dragging steps moving through the gravel, stopping near our window, then silence. By the 4th night, Daniel was sure someone was messing with us. He borrowed a motion light from work and mounted it above the door. We sat in the dark, waiting. The light stayed off for hours. Around 3, it blinked on. Daniel ran to the window. "There's no one there," he said. But when I looked, I saw footprints. Not shoe prints, not boots, bare feet. Long, narrow, with a strange curve to the toes. The snow around them was melted, as if whoever it was gave off heat. We went outside the next morning. The prints stopped near the trees. No sign of where they went. I told Daniel we should tell the landlord or the police. He laughed and said, "What'll we tell them? A barefoot ghost?" That night I couldn't sleep. Around 2, I heard it again, slow steps. Crunching snow, getting closer to the window. I held my breath. The motion light didn't turn on this time. Then came a soft knock. 3 slow taps on the glass. I froze. Daniel came out of his room holding the bat again. Don't move," he whispered. We waited, another knock. Then a scraping sound like nails dragging across the window pane. Daniel yanked the curtain open. Nothing. Just the reflection of our faces in the glass. The next morning, we found new prints. This time they were closer to the door. On the 7th night, Daniel decided to stay up with me. We turned off every light and waited. The air was cold enough that our breath fogged up the glass. Around 3, the steps started again. Slow, careful, right outside the window. Then silence. Daniel whispered, "Now," and swung the door open. I followed him out. The night was dead quiet. No wind, no crickets. Just that still heavy air before something bad happens. The footprints were there again. Wet, steaming slightly in the cold. They led toward the dumpster, then stopped. Daniel walked over, gripping the bat. I stayed by the doorway. He leaned over to look behind the dumpster. I saw his shoulders tense. "What is it?" I asked. He didn't answer. When I got closer, I saw why. Behind the dumpster, pressed against the wall, was a man, naked. His skin looked burned, blistered like he had been in a fire. His eyes were open, but there was no color in them, only milky white. Steam rose from his skin in small waves. He smiled at us. His teeth were cracked. Then he whispered in a rough, dry voice, "You left the window open." I ran back inside. By the time the police came, the snow was fresh again. No prints, no body, only the window wide open. I used to take the same train home every night after work. It was always the 10:45 from the city, quiet and nearly empty. The kind of ride where everyone's half asleep, scrolling their phones or staring out the window. I liked that silence. It made the day feel finished. I worked as a night janitor at an office building downtown. I didn't mind the late shift. I liked empty places. I liked being left alone. Most nights I'd clock out, grab a coffee from the vending machine by the exit, and walk to the station 2 blocks over. The station wasn't much. 2 platforms, a ticket booth that was always closed, and a few flickering lamps that buzzed when the air got too damp. I remember the smell, wet concrete, old cigarettes, and something faintly metallic like blood. It always smelled that way, even in summer. One night I got there early. The clock said 10:31. The place was empty. Not unusual for that hour, but something felt off. Maybe it was how still the air was. No train sounds, no wind through the tunnel. Not even rats. Just a deep, heavy quiet. I sat on the bench with my coffee. The floor was shining from a fresh mop job. Maybe the cleaners had just finished. I could see my reflection in the puddles. I remember thinking the lights looked dimmer than usual. At 10:40 I checked my phone. No signal. I tried refreshing the train app, but it froze. I looked up at the digital sign above the tunnel. The red letters were stuck on one word: delayed. Another 10 minutes passed. Then 20. No train. No announcement. No sound of movement anywhere. I started to wonder if the power had gone out somewhere on the line. When I finally stood up, my coffee cup slipped from my hand. The sound of it hitting the floor echoed far too long, like the tunnel wasn't empty. Like something deeper inside had caught the sound and sent it back. I waited another moment. Nothing moved. Then the lights above me flickered, once, twice, and stayed dim. That's when I noticed something written across the glass of the ticket booth. Words I swear hadn't been there when I arrived. Don't wait for the train. I stared at the words for a long time. The letters were written in something thick, dark, and uneven. Not paint, not marker. It looked smeared like it had been done with a hand. I stepped closer to the booth. The air felt heavier the closer I got, and my reflection in the glass looked wrong. The lights above me buzzed harder, blinking slow and uneven. I could hear the hum in my teeth. I called out once just to break the silence. My voice bounced off the tunnel walls and came back warped like it was slowed down. That's when I noticed the ticket booth chair. It was turned toward the window, but no one was in it. There was a half-eaten sandwich on the counter, still fresh. I took a few steps back. The digital sign above the tunnel was still stuck on delayed. Only now. The lights were flickering too fast to read. It looked like the letters were changing, but I couldn't tell what they said. A faint vibration moved under my feet. I thought it was the train at first, finally coming, but it didn't sound right. It was more like a deep rumble, slow and uneven, like something breathing through the concrete. I moved toward the edge of the platform, holding my phone out for light. The tunnel was just black. Not dark, black, thick like smoke. I tried shining the flashlight into it, but the beam stopped after a few feet, like the darkness was swallowing it. Then somewhere far down the tracks, I heard a sound. It wasn't metal. It wasn't a train. It was wet, dragging, like something pulling itself forward. I froze. The sound grew louder, closer. The vibration in the ground matched its rhythm. I could see something now, faint movement just beyond the black. It wasn't shaped like a train. It was crawling. The tunnel lights flickered once more and then went out completely. Everything was silent again except for one thing, a soft knock. It came from the opposite platform, slow, steady like someone tapping glass. I turned my head, and for the first time since I arrived, I realized I wasn't alone. Across the tracks, under the dim red glow of the emergency lights, a man stood facing me. He was wearing the same uniform as mine. Same jacket, same badge, same patch on the sleeve. He didn't move. His head tilted slightly, like he was trying to study me through the darkness. I couldn't see his face. Only the pale outline of it, smooth and wrong, like there were no eyes or mouth. The knocking came again, but his hands never moved. I whispered something, I don't remember what. The moment the sound left my mouth, the air shifted. A gust of wind came from the tunnel, cold and sour, carrying that same metallic smell. The red light above us flickered and went out. When it came back on, he was gone. I turned to run for the stairs, but the tracks beside me started to hum. The tunnel lit up green for just a second, like something alive was coming through it. Then I heard it, the announcement speaker crackling to life behind me. The voice was mine. Train arriving. Please stand clear of the platform.